Hello. It's March 30th in the evening here in Washington, D.C., and I was just about to go for a walk because I just finished testifying at the U.S. Senate on freedom of expression uh, and what journalists have had to live through. Anyway, come for a walk with me because at 3 o'clock, it would be 3 in the morning here, my time. And actually, it's a pretty good time to talk about how schools can promote justice, right? That's what you want me to talk about today. It's really critical for me because in the end, the reason I became a journalist is because I knew that information is power and that ultimately being a journalist would allow me to work for justice, right? That's a primary goal of being a journalist. Anyway, I think I have 3 things to share with you today. The first is, where does justice come from? It comes from the truth. Where does the truth come from? A shared set of facts. So that's the first one. And then the second is how so much of what we do now is actually trying to splinter fact from fiction, trying to make sense of it. And the third part is why. It's to kind of hopefully help you, students in particular, try to make sense of how social media, which is, you've grown up in the time of social media, how social media has actually changed our world today. So those 3 things. So let's start with, how everything begins with facts, how a sense of justice begins with facts. Think about it like this, right? You have to have the facts in order to settle any disputes. It's the system of law. That's where rule of law comes in. But also beyond that, it's what creates a shared reality when there's conflict. But what happens when the facts are debatable? And that's what's happened now with social media. Technology has actually changed our world fundamentally. We've moved from the age of scarcity, which is the amount of information we could have, whether it's even down to like a statistical survey, right? It's scarcity, n equals whatever. But now with technology, n could equals all. And social media barrages us with so many things. I've said this in the Nobel lecture that technology now has gotten to a point where we live in this age of abundance where it's almost like there's too much coming your way. There's too much information. And if you're familiar with DDoS attacks, DDoS are distributed denial of service attacks. This is what's happening to many news websites in the Philippines today. It's one of the ways that freedom of speech and freedom of expression is being curtailed. And if you're a traditional news organization online, you've gotten DDoS attacked. And what does that mean? It's like they send enemies, make you a target, and they send so many requests to the point that you hit capacity and the website essentially shuts down, right? So you shut down. That's what happens when you see websites shut down. Now think about social media as like a DDoS attack on your brains. It's literally using our biology against us and shutting down your brain. Social media has become a behavior modification system, and something called information operations are literally changing what we think and how we view the world. So let me start with like something simple. Like in 2016, all of the social media platforms used a friends of friends algorithm. Meaning, in order to grow your social media networks, they'll recommend friends of friends. Of course, if you grow your social media networks, then the platform grows, right? So in 2016, the friends of friends will shift us, right? So here's what happens is that we're all in the center in 2016. We didn't debate reality. We didn't debate facts. But in 2016, if you're pro Duterte and you're here, you move further right. That's friends are friends. And if you're anti Duterte, you move further left. And you splinter that over time. That's what's happened to divide and polarize our societies. How can we have a shared set of facts if we're so polarized? This is part of the question now that societies all around the world are going to have to answer. But part of what I testified today at the US Senate was to actually look for solutions for something like this. It's the fact that in many ways, the United States government has abdicated responsibility for protecting users on these American social media platforms. So their push for growth, which is a system called surveillance capitalism, that's the phrase that was coined by Shoshana Zuboff. She's a Harvard emeritus professor, wrote a 750-page book. And she essentially said that, this system of surveillance capitalism takes all of your private data, your personal experiences, and it mines it, uses machine learning to create a model of you that knows you better than you know yourself, and then artificial intelligence comes in to scoop all of that out and build a system for how the model, kind of micro-targeting, how this data can then be used to target you at your weakest point. So this is probably too much technical detail for what you want, but what it has done, it has allowed large interest, whether it's a company or whether it's a government, to actually insidiously manipulate us. And that's part of what you are living with today. How can you find justice today if we are debating the facts? So this is part of, I think, what the entire world is trying to do. And when you look at conflicts all around the world, before you actually solve any of them, you're going to have to agree on what the facts are to find your points of compromises. That's really what I wanted to share with you, because as of January this year, Filipinos, for the 6th year in a row, spend the most time online and on social media globally. So how are we going to define the facts so that we can find a point of shared reality so we can determine justice? I think I'll just have 3 suggestions for you. And this I'll go both macro and then go to you, the person, right? The first is, and these are things that worked for me. I think the first part is, find places to be alone. Find places to think, like this walk that you're on with me, right? I'm with you, but by the time you watch this, I'll be sleeping. And I will have had this walk to sift through what I really think, the experiences that I've had. That's the first step, is that, you have to move away from kind of the performative aspect of social media, of how it is running our lives in many ways. Because think about it like this. The world's largest distribution platform of news is Facebook. And yet, its algorithms are actually biased against facts, which means it's also biased against journalism, right? So anyway, all right, so that's the first step. Find time to think. Find time to be alone. I think the second one is something that has been something I've learned in my life, which is whatever decision you have to make, that most of the time, these decisions, I have a very simple way to actually make a tough decision. I look at something I've learned when I was much, much younger, which is, don't laugh, the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And then I think the last part of that is, if you're doing that, then you actually wind up empathizing, which is part of what's been missing in so many of our systems today, right? Especially if you live on social media. Empathy, because in many ways, social media has actually created a system where toxic sludge is pumping through. So this, in order to keep you on the platforms and in order to keep you scrolling, lies laced with anger and hate spread faster and further than facts. So, empathy. Those are the three things. Our search for justice begins with facts, with making decisions that actually are based on facts to create our shared reality, making decisions where we place ourselves in the other person's shoes. The golden rule is perfect for that. You know, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And then the last part, when you live according to the golden rule, you wind up having empathy for others. Good luck in all that you do. There's a lot more that we should be talking about. And I'm so sorry that I couldn't be there with you in person or even live. But thank you for joining the walk with me today. It's been a very tiring day in Washington, D.C. I'm Maria Ressa. Good luck in your search for justice. Thanks.